You see, one of the most commonly used phrases that gets told to people whenever they're, kind of struggling in the current time that they're at, the current position they're at, with whatever skill they may be trying to get better at. There's always this one quote, which is, practice makes perfect, which is just not true. The idea of it is nice, but it's just not true. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progression. Perfection is something that you just can't achieve. It's something that you shouldn't be striving for, I believe, honestly. Like, why would you want to strive for something that isn't possible? You can't be perfect. So, yes, while it may be like, okay, yeah, why are you kind of picking apart this thing? It's like, obviously, you can't be perfect. But something for me, and for a lot of people, is as you're working on something and you're wanting to get better at it, you want to be perfect at it, because practice makes perfect, as they say. The issue is, when you hear practice makes perfect and then you start practicing, you want to end up being perfect, but you can't be perfect. It's really frustrating because people like me, if you're like me, then you may be a little bit of a perfectionist. Nothing is ever good enough. And it's really unfortunate, honestly, because, like, it's so dumb. I want to be able to be good at stuff, and I want to be able to work on something and not always, like, point out, like, the little flaws that I see in it, or like, oh, I could have done this better or that better, which that is a great mindset to have, actually. Like, you should be wanting to have the mindset of, okay, this wasn't as good, I can improve this. But that should just be that. You should just have that mindset. It shouldn't be, okay, I've been working on this thing and now I'm not perfect at it, but I want to be perfect at it and I should be better at this, right? Like, after working on something for a long time, you just start to think, well, I should be better at this, I believe. But it's just, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progression, and progression leads to happiness and productivity. It's something that, like, say, take Minecraft here, okay? I'm playing Minecraft, it's relaxing, it's chill, but say I start, like, building a house or something, or, like, whatever I'm trying to do, like I said, let's say a house, or, like, let's even just say what I'm literally doing right now, which is just making this staircase down to diamond level. It's like, okay, that's cool and all, but it doesn't need to be perfect. And I just know, like, every time I walk through here, I'm just like, okay, well, I could, it's going to be too wide, it's going to have cool designs on the side, I can make it all fancy, and it's like, okay, chill. It doesn't need to be perfect. And that's something that, while this is just an example for Minecraft here, it just goes for everything. Like, it's so easy to get swept up in the details. It's so easy to be like, okay, if I practice, then I'll be perfect at this, and everything will be great. But it's not how it works. And it's something that, honestly, I'm making this video for myself and people who are like me, because, my goodness, nobody's perfect, and you may want to be perfect. I know I want to be perfect sometimes. It's like, okay, I wish I could, like, just be, like, a master at one thing. But even the things that you're working on a lot, you're not going to be a master of it. Or if you are a master of it eventually, it's not going to mean that you're perfect at it. You see, it's the biggest, like, misconception with that quote. It's like, practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't make perfect. Perfect isn't the thing that you can achieve. And I feel like the big issue is everybody just tries to achieve it without realizing that, yeah, that's not really attainable thing that you can get. Perfection isn't really something you can achieve. We're just flawed creatures. We're not going to be perfect. It's that simple. It sucks saying it, because it's like, you want to be, like, really good, perfect even. And, like, even when you do work on something and you do become, like, good at it, you kind of have this feeling like, yeah, I'm not supposed to mess up. I gotta, like, be, like, perfect about it, because you have that, at least for me, like, subconsciously, you just have that feeling of, like, okay, well, I've been working on this one thing for a long time. It should be really good. It should be, like, basically perfect, because, hey, practice makes perfect, and I've been putting a lot of practice into this one thing. But it's like, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And it's easier to say that than to, like, actually, like, take that and be like, okay, what can I do about it then? Because it's like, you want to be good, like I was saying, you want to be, like, the best that you can be, and it sucks when you just aren't. you know? Like, it's just, you want to be the best around. No one's ever gonna bring me down. Honestly, this video is really just trying to get you to think, like, okay, if the whole saying is practice makes perfect, right? What can you do? Like, how can you rethink it? Think about it differently. I say the best way of going about doing that is just going from practice makes perfect, thinking about it like that, to thinking about it as practice makes progression. And progression is what you want. You don't want perfection. Perfection is something you can't achieve. You shouldn't even want to even try to achieve it because it's not achievable. And I know it sucks, like, to say that, like, yeah, you'll never be perfect at anything, but it's just true. We're flawed. We're not going to be able to be perfect at stuff. And when you do mess up and you feel like you're just not good enough, you just got to remember that you should just be aiming to get just a little bit better every time you work on something, or just every day. Like, you're never going to be like the perfect human. You're never going to be able to be the perfect worker at whatever task you do. It's not something that you can realistically do. It's just not possible. It's something that is difficult to really come to terms with because you just want to be perfect. At least I know I feel it's like I want to be just the best I can be, especially when I work towards things so often. But just understanding that you're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. That's just life, and just focus on, instead of perfection, focus on progression. And it's something that, especially like with what I've been doing recently with game development, is extremely difficult, because I want to make a game that's really fun and exciting and all of this, and I have like grand, ambitious ideas for it. But in reality, that shouldn't be what I'm focusing on. I shouldn't be focusing on making like this perfect type of game, because that's not possible. And then I set my expectations too high, and then I just restart the whole project because it's not up to my standards, my perfectionism standards. And you know, if you just instead aim to get better and try to rethink it that way, it becomes so much more easy to lead to a point that's closer to perfection. Because the whole idea of practice makes perfect, you know, like, it's a fun little saying or whatever. But if you take it too literally, you may just end up feeling like, dang, that was not as good as I was hoping for whenever you work on something. And I feel like it kind of just encourages that perfectionism. And hey, maybe I'm just thinking into it too much. This is just the quote that got me thinking today, because it's misleading, man. I don't know. I'm just sure that if you focus too much on the perfectionism side of things, if you're too much of a perfectionist, which I feel like I am a lot of times with what I work on, you just got to remember, you don't want to aim for whatever you're working on to just be perfect. You just want it to be a little bit better than last time if possible, or just try something a little differently, or just make some sort of progress some way, somehow. That should be the main focus. So like yesterday I was working on my medieval fantasy wizard game, and I implemented this medieval dungeon that I created in Blender. By the way, there's like mini devlogs and pictures of this type of stuff on Instagram. You can check that out with the link below. But it was really cool making the dungeon and stuff, but like, I kept feeling like, I feel like there's more I can do. It should be better. Like, it's not good enough. I always feel like I'm not doing things good enough, you know, because that little like perfectionistic part of me. And you know, afterwards, like as I just looked at my model, I'm just like, you know what? It's good enough. I've made significant progress with this. If I try to make it like perfect, not only will it just like take a toll on me, not only will it have the chance of maybe messing up how the entire model looks, because I may try to do something that I'm not ready for, like my skill level doesn't match, and therefore it messes it up, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It's good to just realize what you're trying to do isn't trying to make the most amazingly perfect thing. It's just trying to get better than you did last time. And if you can do that, if you can make that progress, that's when just life becomes a lot better, because then you have just this completely new mindset that is revolutionary. Honestly, it revolutionizes life. I'd say it's just so great to not have to, you know, worry about trying to make things perfect. I just make things. Just go out and like work on things. Try to make progress regardless of if it's good or not. If you just get a little better each time, or you make progress in some way each time, that's all that matters. In the moment, you may be feeling like this sucks, like I want to do better, I should be better at this, or whatever. Like you may be like down on yourself. Well, there is this one verse from the Bible which I think is pretty good in ways of thinking here, so I'm gonna read that out here. Romans 8:18, and it says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Basically, my interpretation of that is like, okay, don't be so hard on yourself in the moment. Like you're gonna wish that you were able to do things better and be better, and it may suck because you know you're suffering in that moment. Like you just have this underlying feeling of like unworthiness perhaps, and it's like, hey, as long as you just remember that even if it's difficult now and you feel like you're not doing good enough now, it's gonna be like nothing compared to how great it's gonna be once you are past this time. Like say you're starting something new and you absolutely suck at it, you know, and you're kind of discouraged and you're not feeling great about it, and you know practice, you know, makes progression, not perfection, and you know that, and you're gonna get better eventually just by practicing it. But in the moment it just feels like, dang, I am really not that great at this kind of sucks, and maybe it's gonna be difficult and hard and you're gonna feel bad. And it's like, if you just push through that, the suffering, I guess you can say, in the moment, then you'll realize that it's going to be well worth it in the long run. And the biggest thing that stops people is they're worried that they're not going to be good at it when they start it, which they're not. You're not going to be good at something when you first start it. Like 90% of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to suck at the thing that you're starting for the first time, unless you have some unnatural great talent for it for some reason.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
With that being said, just get started. If there's something that you've been wanting to work on, something that you've been wanting to work towards, whatever it may be, just get started with it. Or if there's something that you've been doing, just continue working with it. Even if it's hard now. I know I feel like I'm never making enough progress, and the things I make aren't good enough and all of this, but it all compounds over time. Just 1% better each day. That's all that matters. If you could just get a little bit better each day, your life will eventually compound with all the greatness that will come, and it'll be well worth it. You want to be sure you try to enjoy the process and just don't let the perfectionism that you may have stop you from creating or doing something great. That's just my 2 cents on it. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to scroll down right now and subscribe so you don't miss it on future videos. Thank you once again. Remember that practice makes progression, and that's the thing you should be focusing on, not perfection. And I'll see you in the next one.